Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus Cornix, and welcome to YACC, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game, I play it for a week, and then I talk about it. This week's game is Metroid for the NES, and it was made in 1987, developed by Nintendo's R&D 1 and published by Nintendo. And also there will be spoilers up ahead, just so you know, but first a little backstory. I had this game as a kid, and I never got really far into it. There's something about the minimalism of this game that I always like. Black backgrounds and this foreboding kind of atmosphere. So when you boot up the game, you're introduced to a wall of text. Defeat the Metroids on the planet Seb, or Sebes, destroy Mother Brain by the order of the Galactic Federal Police. So when you start up the game, you're prompted with two options. Either you start a new game, or you can select continue. If you select continue, you will be introduced to a password screen, and every time you die in this game you get a password, so all your progress up to that point is saved. And you can also input other passwords, which is kind of cool, some Easter eggs and whatnot, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So the Famicom version had like a save feature built into the cartridge, which is really cool, but the European version didn't, like the NES version. There are also some small differences between the soundtracks of the Famicom and the NES one, because the Famicom console had one extra audio channel, I believe, or something like that. So there's some minor difference between the soundtracks, and if you have time you can check it out on YouTube and compare the tracks. There's some minor differences. It's kind of a cool little thing. So when you start up the game, you arrive in a place called Brimstar, and as a platformer or a guy that plays platformer, your instincts is to go right, but you're supposed to go left. So if you continue to go right, you will eventually reach a wall that you see like a small crawl space under it. So you just go back, and there's when you find the Morph Ball. If you push down, Samus will turn into a little ball, and you can roll under small gaps. And it teaches this mechanically throughout the game, like how you are supposed to progress, because you get one item and then you can press on a little further. And it's a smart way to introduce things to, like, you hit a hurdle or like a threshold or whatever, and you think about how to progress and whatnot, and you find something that actually makes you progress. So you get the Morph Ball and you continue on. So when you start up the game, your little blaster or handgun, Samus has like a green arm cannon that shoots like pea projectiles, and they don't even reach like a third of the screen, which is kind of annoying in the beginning. I forgot about this. So you want to upgrade to the long shot, and you have to find it as you explore. So this game has some amazing graphics. I think it's an airy, mysterious kind of vibe to it, kind of forbidden, as I said in the intro. So you're supposed to climb up a blue shaft. There's like these kind of platforms with different enemies on them. You will eventually hit a wall. You need missiles in order to open red doors. You kind of find these as you explore the world of Sebes, I guess, the planet. So you find a missile in a room filled with these clamps and that hover in the air and attack you. And I thought that was kind of cool. And if you fall down in like the quicksand, it's hard to get up. One of the more frustrating parts of the game. But you find the missile expansion or whatever, and you can blast up the red doors. So it takes 5 missiles to open a door, and in the beginning I think you only get like 5 missiles for each expansion port. You find them in open areas, usually crawling with enemies. So you get the long beam, and now you can shoot throughout or across the screen, and it's nice. So now you can progress and explore more of the level, and you will eventually find the Morph Ball bombs, which are used to bomb little holes or the platforms that are hidden. So this game is full of like secrets and small shortcut areas. So the way I play this game, I go out online and I find a map of everything, so I know where everything is, and I start to explore, because otherwise you don't really know where to go. So there's a couple of options here that opens up when you have the Morph Bombs. You can either go down to the area with the clamps and go through like a gap in the bridge, and you find the ice beam. And the ice beam is mandatory for beating this game, and it's one of the cooler weapons. It actually freezes enemies and makes them into stationary platforms. And it's also very useful for the bosses, because you can freeze the projectiles in mid-air. Spoilers, against the last boss is actually a necessity, because otherwise you will take a whole lot of damage by the red rings of death. But anyway, now you had two options. Either you go back to almost at the beginning of the level in Brimstar. There's like these platforms that are sort of beneath the path that you walk, and you can see down there, but you don't really know how to traverse down there. So you figure out you can use the bottom of the blocks, and you go down there and you fight one of the bosses. So there's like, I don't remember if it was Ridley or Kraid that was down there, but it doesn't matter. There are two bosses are mandatory to actually reach the final zone of the game, which is called Torian, and where Mother Brain is. Stuck up on energy tanks, I forgot to talk about these, but these are certainly like life extension of yours. You have, at the beginning of the game, you have 30 to 33 lives, and you can reach up to 99, and if you collect an energy tank, you get 99 more, so you can collect a couple of energy tanks, and I would advise to like get as many of these as possible and charge them up. There are these kind of places where you can farm enemies to get energy. So if you kill an enemy, you either get like a flashing disc that replenish some of your health or energy, or you get some missiles. So when I was a kid, me and my brother used to call the missiles anchors. I just remembered because the icon of the missile looks like anchors. I mean, a gun that fires anchors, sure, that will hurt, right? Yeah, being a kid and being stupid. So anyway, you beat Kraid and you beat Ridley, and Ridley is like this dragon kind of thing. Kraid is like a, I don't know what, like a hedgehog thingy. And when you beat them, you actually get much more missiles at your disposal. I think just a crazy amount. And both of these rooms has a hidden energy tank. One is actually behind like a purple door or something that takes a load of missiles, and the other one is just hidden like behind the boss or beneath like the floor. But anyway, I forgot to tell also, you get like the space jump, which makes you jump really high, get to higher places, and you also get the Varia suit that I think it just reduces damage that you take, and it turns Samus's orange suit into a pink one, which is really cool. I like that. So you go to the final area. The path is finally open as you beat the bosses, and you go to Torian, as I said before, and you encounter the Metroids. And these things are super scary. They will latch onto you, and you will have to bomb yourself out of them and use the ice beam to freeze them and blast them full of missiles to kill them. So when you enter the final area of Torian, and this is a big spoiler, you go through this hallway of barriers and red Cheetos that are trying to kill you, basically. And a good strategy here would be to freeze the projectiles in midair so they won't bother you, and you will hack away at the barriers. And eventually you will meet this big brain just called Mother Brain, and you pump it full of missiles, and you have to escape the planet because now it's supposed to explode for some reason. I don't know, a self-destruct sequence, and you have to go up to a platform and escape. So there are a couple of different endings to this game depending on some criterias, but I believe just finishing the game as fast as you can gives you the better ending. And there's like this thing, if you leave the console on for a very long time, you get the really, really bad ending. The better ending you get, the less clothes will Samus wear at the end of the game, and it's revealed that Samus is actually a girl and not a boy because the spacesuit kind of covers up the face and everything. But back then it was probably shocking, but not today. This game was heavily, if it's not obvious, heavily inspired by the Alien movies, the Alien franchise. So the boss called Ridley is actually a callback to Ridley Scott's, and Alien in general kind of ooze throughout this game. And it's really cool, and both Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley and Samus Aran are pretty much alike. You know, these action heroine. Yeah, it's kind of cool anyway that they did something unexpected back in '86, I guess. So gameplay. Explore Sebes, defeat the Mother Brain and the mini-bosses, and save the galaxy from the space pirates. Control. B fires the gun, A jumps. The D-pad moves the character around, and if you press down on the D-pad while having the Morph Ball, you turn into a ball, and then you can also push the B button, the fire button in Morph Ball mode to drop bombs if you have that expansion. And if you press select, you change from your normal shot to the to the missiles, to the anchor weapon, I guess. And there's also a gun upgrade that I don't really like, but it's in there if you want to. You can find it in one place. I think it's in one of the deeper parts of the game. It's called the wave beam, and it actually goes through solid walls in like a pattern, like a sinus or a tan curve. But it's it doesn't freeze enemies, and it's not that useful. Usually other like gunfires like the long beam and the ice beam, they just stop at blocks and whatnot, but the wave beam goes through. But you know, I never found it useful other than it looked kind of cool and made a different sound. Graphics. A black background just leaves an invitation for the open mind to investigate. And I always like the foreboding atmosphere, as I said. Instead of filling the background with these crazy kind of details, you just have a black background. And all the other things on the screen pops because of this, in my opinion. So you have this cool alien kind of architecture, like weird shapes and faces. And I mean, I really like the aesthetic of this game because when you enter a new area, everything is different. And you thought like, okay, this is Brimstar. Well, it's kind of like a cave kind of thing with some alien structures. But once you reach like No Fair or Ridley's Hideout or Torian, there's all kinds of different architectural things, because Torian is the end game. Torian is like a really metallic. It has a metallic feel to it, like a science lab. And Ridley's layer is like this, it's covered with ice and the weird stuff. And if you go down to another hideout, there's like these white bricks, and such a contrast, and I love it. It's an interesting game just by looking at it, exploring the Unforbidden. Really cool. Sound and music. Hirokazu Tanaka, he made the soundtrack for this game. And it's kind of interesting, as I said before, that the Famicom version actually has an extra sound channel, and the tracks are a little bit different. Even when you have like an extra channel of sound, it paints a better soundscape, I guess. So I actually prefer the Famicom soundtrack. I listen to it sometimes, but you know, you stuck with the NES one, but it's kind of fine. You know, I can't really complain about the music. Easter eggs, secrets, and glitches. There are some glitches that you can do that I looked up. Of course, you can do like a middle air jump. So if you are in Morph Ball form and roll off like an edge, you can push up and jump. You actually can jump in midair. It's like a sequence breaking thing. It's hard to pull up because I'm not a speedrunner, obviously, but I tried it and I managed to do it 1 or 2 times. And there's another thing you can do when you open up, and I forgot to tell about this, but there are blue doors that open when you fire with your normal gun on them. You don't have to like use missiles or anything. You can, but you shouldn't. So if you open a blue door, you position yourself like halfway into it, you can actually jump in like a solid kind of into the door and up to the ceiling above. You jump through blocks, so you can do some sequence skipping that way too and get to places earlier that you were not supposed to. So it's kind of cool. And there's some cool features with the password system as well. So some guy figured out, and this is like a classic one that always get mentioned when talking about Metroid, the Justin Bailey password. So if you just pop in Justin Bailey with a couple of zeros afterwards, you get like Samus in a bikini, and you have the wave beam and a couple of entity tanks and whatnot, and you start out in another area than Brimstar, because the password has tracks of how many missiles you have, what expansions you have. So just if you know the numbers of those things, you can actually manipulate the password to do what you want and do all these kind of crazy things. And there was some other cool passwords that I looked up. You can, if you put in Narpa sword with a bunch of zeros or something, you get all the upgrades and everything is kind of fixed, so you just have to go to the last boss. And I thought that was kind of cool. Like, how random is that? It wasn't put in by the developer, but just knowing the numbers and values and manipulate them and figure them out, you can enter this password and you can just go to the last boss. Kind of cool. So in conclusion, I wrote, yes, this is one of my favorite games, and the way I play it is with a map. So this game didn't necessarily start the Metroidvania trend or the genre as a whole, but it was there to begin. It wasn't like fully developed, but I love the sense of exploring, because without a map, you're lost. So that's the only thing you need. You need a little map and you just explore. It's kind of a cool concept. And the game design is really good because it guides you through the step on where you're supposed to go. As I said before, you usually hit like a wall or a door or someplace you don't know where to go. And if you explore a bit, you find like the the morph bomb. So you find the ice beam and you realize, oh, I can freeze the enemy so I can get to this ledge, or I can bomb this wall that wasn't really indicated in the beginning like I could do, so I can find some other items. And it's a really cool way that the game kind of hits you against the wall and you kind of like, okay, maybe I have to open the door to get through, or like crawl through a hole in the wall. The only negative thing about this game is the knockback, and it's not as like Castlevania when you get knocked back and fall into whatever, but you get a little knockback. And the other thing is like hitting or landing in lava and quicksand. It's really hard to get up and it's frustrating, and usually there's some bad enemy placement that makes you fall into pits and makes you really angry. But that's the only nitpicky thing I can say about it. So anyway, thanks for listening and for watching, and take care.